Welcome to the Tom Castro Shooting Academy podcast. You have now entered the next level. Another episode of the Tom Castro Shooting Academy Next Level podcast. So tonight, I am running solo. I've had so many things going on recently that I just kind of bouncing in my head today after a local match that I just shot. I figured I had to put a podcast out. I'm probably not going to sleep very well tonight unless I do this. I got to get it out of my brain. It's just kind of bouncing around. So I figured I'd catch you guys up with a little bit of kind of what happened in the last 3 weeks. It's been a wild 3 weeks for sure. So I figured it'd be time to catch up. So let's get into it. So I have some notes just to kind of not forget anything because I had so much going on. So I might go back and forth a little bit to my notes. Again, with no one else here, it's just me. I got to try to stay on topic with things that I do. And it's not easy because unfortunately, some of these topics are easy to kind of get off into a tangent like I always do about shooting. So I love talking about it. So let's get into it. So the first thing, and I've had a lot of people ask about it, Area 5. So let's talk a little bit about Area 5. It's the worst match I've ever shot in my life. Personally, my shooting was absolutely terrible. I just had one of the worst shooting days. I mean, really, it was a single day, and nothing went right. I think I had one stage, and I think it was my very first stage that I did decent at. I wouldn't even say I did well. I think I had 4 Charlies, and I was kind of on the pace, I guess. But after that, I got my butt kicked pretty good. There's a lot of things that happened that day that are very explainable now, but not that day. I couldn't, no matter what I tried, no matter what I changed, I couldn't get myself to fix it. I couldn't fix it. I shouldn't say I couldn't get myself. I couldn't fix it. I had every answer I tried, safe table time, working on the better grip and all these different things. I just couldn't settle in. And I think there was a couple of different things that happened at that match for me when it comes to my shooting. One, the match was very difficult on the zone we started on. I mean, it was just a difficult zone, which is usually not a big deal since that's what I practice. I actually practice 25 and 30 yard targets. Hell, I even practice up to 40 and 50 yard targets. I just couldn't get myself very comfortable. I was constantly just throwing makeup shots. I never felt settled. It felt like the gun was just flying out of my hand no matter how hard I gripped it, no matter how much I loosened the grip or changed the grip or added pressure here or took pressure off here. It just wasn't happening. A couple guys were like, Michael Jordan had days like that. And I understand that. But if you ask Michael Jordan the same as if you ask me, the people that are super competitive and champions or wannabe champions in sports, they find a way. They find an answer. And I couldn't find an answer. So that was frustrating. I mean, beyond frustrating for me. And I sat down and kind of dumped a bunch of my feelings out on camera. And it kind of makes me nervous sometimes because it does make me vulnerable. But, that's kind of what this page is. This is kind of what this show is. This is what I do. I kind of give everybody my thoughts and how I feel about things and how it feels to be, on this journey to win a national championship or just to be one of the best shooters in the world. So it's makes me vulnerable. It's not always fun, sitting there and watching those videos and going, I don't know if I should post that or not. But you know what? I don't mind, man. It's just me. I'm open and, I got big shoulders, so I take it pretty well. And I get a lot of good feedback from you guys. A lot of you guys keep me making these videos. So thank you for that. But it was a struggle. I was very, very, very lucky that during that match, I was able to sit down at dinner that night with 2 of my very, very, very good friends, Sam and Janelle. And I don't know how much we actually talked about shooting now that I think about it. I mean, I don't think we talked about shooting much, but I mean, we had some falling out of the chair moments where we were just laughing. I mean, crying, laughing over some things that had happened that night, some things that happened at the match, like some stories that we had from past matches that we had been shooting together recently. And it allowed me to, I guess, kind of get rid of the whole day just kind of fell off after that. Like, I didn't think about it that much. I didn't care at that moment. I was just able to kind of just wipe my mind free of, how I had shot that day. And then I went home, and then, I was by myself and that's when I made that video. So that's kind of the little timeline about when that video came out. But that was my moment, right? Like I just couldn't sit down, and it didn't go away. So I made the video, and then the very next day, which is where most people want me to get to, is the very next day, I kind of analyzed my match, and just for that specific day, and there was two things that happened there. One, I definitely was not target focused. I was dot focused. And the reason I know that 100%, obviously I didn't catch that earlier in the day, but the reason I noticed that or know it now is because as I was kind of going through the day and realizing what I was seeing and why I was taking makeup shots and I was just shooting so terribly, was I was in a lightsaber battle, like the dots going up, left, and right. I mean, I could tell you exactly what the dot was doing, but I couldn't tell you where the dot was landing. So that right there immediately was like, you dummy. I honestly, I can't tell you if I've ever really had a day like that before. So I don't think I've ever truly been dot focused for a long period of time, because it's something that I probably would have paid attention to it a lot sooner and realized what I was doing if I had done it a lot. It was something that I will never ever forget what that looks like. So if that happens again, I know exactly what I'm doing wrong. Like, I will never forget that feeling. Trust me. I will never forget watching the dot bounce around the target and going, I can't control the gun. Well, it wasn't my grip. I was literally watching the dot go up and down, left and right, and I was chasing it. So obviously, wherever I look, the gun's going to go, and I was going to shoot it there. So I would shoot a Charlie or a Delta or a makeup shot. I mean, I remember shooting at a hardcover target that wasn't outside of my realm. It was probably 30 yards. It was a hard target. But I remember shooting at this hardcover target, and I'm like, all right, cool, whack. Oh, wait, high left. Whoa, high left, high left. Okay, stop. Slow down, shoot two, and I have 3 of those in the same spot out of the 4 shots. 3 of them are high left where I was staring at the dot chasing it. So it was like, I think that was the target that kind of like woke me up, but it was too late. At that point I had just, I think it was one of our last stages. And it was too late. I had already thrown the entire match away and the entire day away. So then we had lunch or dinner that night, kind of got away from the range, did the video, kind of dumped all my feelings out to the world. And then I go back the next day. And the biggest thing about the next day to me was, well, one, I was going to start on a terrible stage if you struggled the day before. Yes, it was Virginia count, one-handed, 30-yard targets, 18-yard targets with black tuxedo down the middle and right in the middle of the A, hard leans, left and weak and strong-handed. Not the best stage to start off on to build confidence. So I shoot that stage actually pretty well. I have a mic on a far target, on the far left target, and I'm almost 100% certain that it was actually, I was actually shooting freestyle at that time. I think I just over transitioned the target, or I was trying to exit the position. I'm pretty sure it was on the exit. It's been a little while since I, thought about that stage. And then I had one more mic on that stage that I shot dead center into the hardcover. Because, it's always good to put a hardcover right down the middle of the alpha zone, because, that's always what we practice the most, is to shoot Charlies and Deltas. So finish that stage and I walk away with 2 penalties. But to be honest with you, it was the two penalties I wasn't even upset with. It's kind of one of those stages where you're like, well, everybody else is going to suck here too, so I might as well just accept it and just shoot it, and whatever it is whatever it is. So you're just trying to get out of there with minimal penalties. So I get out of that stage, and then we go to the next stage. So again, not the best stage to start off on. So my match isn't going, I'm already not cranking, right? So I go to the next stage, and I drop. It was an unloaded start on a moped, and I think I was one of the first few shooters. I think I was, I don't know, maybe fourth or fifth. So I had a little bit of time to kind of think about it. Felt good about the stage. I was pretty locked in. Obviously I felt good from the last stage, just not happy with the hit penalties there. And start the stage, have a great unloaded start. Somehow, I don't know. I haven't even watched that video. I need to sit down and watch that a little bit. But I don't know whether I hit the mag release after the reload, basically the mag fell out onto the table and had to reload. So handled it pretty well. Reloaded, shot the 2-paper, dropped the mag, reloaded again, shot steel, and finished the stage with only one, I think it was a delta. Let's just say I wasn't a happy person at the end of that stage. I was pretty frustrated with myself because that was just, it's such dumb things that were happening to me. It was just like, and I talked about this in the video before, that it was a black hole. You know, it was just literally a black hole that was just sucking me into the black hole. No matter what I did, no matter how much I dry fire, no matter how much I practice, it just seemed like everything that could go wrong was going wrong at that match. So that stage is done, and I believe it was stage 4 and 5 are the two stages that I shot. Again, you know, I think stage 5 was fine. I don't think it was a good or a bad stage. It wasn't a stage that I was like, oh, sweet, I'm going to sit on a moped and shoot steel sitting or whatever. It wasn't an exciting stage, so I just wanted to survive it kind of thing, right? Just get out of it. There wasn't going to be any separation on that stage because of the way the stage is set up. There was separation in the stage because I messed up, but it shouldn't have been, right? If I just executed like I'm supposed to, it wasn't a stage where like, oh man, you're going to win the match on this stage. So I go into stage 6 and, you know, I would consider, you know, the time lost at that point on that second stage that we shot that day is basically like shooting a mic. It absolutely kills your score. I had a lot of alphas and deltas, but so did everybody else. All alphas and a delta, but so did everybody else, right? I mean, at that point, you know, my chances of winning the match are 0. So I just kind of said, all right, you're getting ready for Area 6 next week. This is your Area 6 prep, right? Like, I just kind of let go of all the results, which I did. I didn't really think about the results from the beginning. I just, you know, wasn't there the day one at all. I go into the day, get into stage 6, and it was kind of funny because this stage, I walked this stage with a lot of the top guys. Like, a lot of top guys walked this stage when I was around. And we had a lot of conversations about this stage. I mean, a lot. Like, oh, I don't think you should run to the right, or you should run back, or you should run left, or there was a lot of ways to shoot this stage. And I will tell you, to me, I think it was the best stage in the match. Not because I did well on it. A lot of people actually do say that a lot, which is sad. They'll judge the match by whether they did good or not. I think it's one of the best stages, if not the best stage of the match, because it had at least 4 or 5 viable stage plans. So a lot of you guys might not know this, but when you have a different opinion about a stage, it's very easy to get talked out of your stage plan. Very, very easy, especially as a top shooter. It's hard to go against the grain sometimes. So, and a lot of the top shooters just have their own way of doing things. They have their own strengths. They know their strengths very well, but they also know their weaknesses very, very well. I think I know my weaknesses better than I know my strengths, which is one of the things that I stage plan out of, right? I stage plan a lot of the things that I screw up, I stage plan a lot. Like, I get rid of them. I'm like, oh, nope. That's not good. I don't want to do that there. So I'm going to work around that if I can. Now, you can't always, right? And obviously, the more I practice is the more I try to eliminate those weaknesses. But they're there, right? Everybody has them. I don't care what kind of shooter you are. I don't care if you're a national champion. I promise you, if you ever talk to a national champion, they will say, yeah, man, I needed to work on this, or I didn't do this well at that match, or yeah, I won the match, but, you know, I didn't do well. You know, there's always something to get better at in the sport. So as we're going through this stage planning, I I have a lot of the top guys like, yeah, man, that's I don't like that long run, or I don't like entering on this target, or I didn't like this, or I didn't like the reload there, or whatever it is, right? Now, again, one of the reasons I loved this stage is because I don't think there was a wrong answer. I mean, there obviously was. In my opinion, I think I nailed the stage plan because I was 2 seconds faster than the closest person. And that's, at top level guys. I'm not just anybody, just like the top level guys on the stage. So it was the way I decided to attack the stage. I kind of decided to go forward first, which it was a gamble, right? Like a lot of guys didn't run that way. They ran left or they ran backwards. Not a lot of people ran forward. And the reason I ran forward is because just the way I could enter and exit and constantly be attacking the stage. Now, if you went the other way, you could do that as well. There was just some bigger gaps. I didn't like the way it flowed. And there was one section of the stage that you ended up running. Well, there's two things about that section of the stage. You had to run one section of it twice, which to me, if I have to cover the same ground twice, I'm probably changing my stage plan. Because running the same place twice means I'm not scoring points somewhere on that second time I run it. The other one is, and unfortunately this range it's the ground cover becomes a massive part of your stage planning. At Cardinal in Ohio, you have to pay attention to where you go and how you're going to enter and exit a lot, because you will fall. It's not if, it's when are you going to fall there. I love their range. Actually, I like the range. I could do without the weather. But I really like that range. Even the single bays where they only have one berm in the back, I really do think it's a great place. I think they have a very good system there. I like the guys who run it. Dan and Corey are amazing. I really like those guys. I don't like some of the shit they do at their match, but I really do like those guys. They're awesome, and they do a lot of hard work in this sport. So this specific stage had if you ran it left and then ran forward, it had eventually you had to run uprange, directly uprange, and you had to do a 90-degree turn in some pretty gnarly gravel. So immediately I was like, nope, for two reasons. One, I didn't feel like I was going to fall because I've really figured out the footwork at that range. Actually, I figured out some footwork in just overall, even if I'm in the grass, but it really works there. It's important there. But the other reason why is because you would have to stop a lot. There was quite a few places where I was able to move and shoot, where other guys turn that into a stop position. And if you ran it any differently than I did, it kind of forced you to turn it into a stop position. And I've talked about this guy quite a bit, so these people probably think I have a crush on him by now, but one of the people in this sport that is changing my shooting is Jacob Hetherington. He has found another level of shooting that I aspire to find. And he shoots the way I used to shoot, but he's good. So I used to run around and shoot everything on the move, and I couldn't control it. I just couldn't control it at the time. So now that's kind of where I got my ass kicked by almost 30 seconds at that match, which is not me. I'm not usually the slow guy. I'm not usually the one who's slow. So I went into day two and I said, all right, man, that's it. I'm not losing to Jacob in time today. I'm not going to let him outrun me. I am going to shoot with no fear. So one of the things that I kind of analyzed from day one, and it was hard because I didn't really see it until it was too late, obviously, is I was shooting with a lot of fear. I had mistakes on my brain, it was weird because it was a subconscious thing. It wasn't oh man, don't make a mistake. Like, oh, you better be careful on that shooting, or you better, really, I didn't do any of those things. I didn't walk up to a target and go, oh man, a no shooter. Oh goodness, it's a 40-yard target. I didn't do any of that. It was subconsciously in my brain to not allow a Charlie to be left on a piece of paper. If I had a Charlie and I called it, even if I knew it was there, I'd make it up. For some reason, well, I kind of know the reason. I really, finding my new grip has made a massive difference in my accuracy. So now I am seeing a giant difference in alphas. I mean, I am shooting way more alphas than I've ever shot before. And it's becoming natural now as my grip gets better. But going through that process of getting rid of the Charlies and making my grip better, I got really, I shouldn't say I was very focused on alphas, which is fine, except for I couldn't let a Charlie go. I kept thinking, oh man, that wasn't where it was supposed to be. And I would just make it up. Even so, I'd end up with 2 alphas and a Charlie instead of just alpha Charlie and out the door. And again, time matters. So I went back and looked at all of my national stages, and I lost nationals. Now, and I don't mean as in I was going to win, but I literally did not give myself a chance to win nationals. I didn't give myself a top 5 position, a top 10 position from only one day. If you put 2 and 3 together, and that was my match, I got a damn good chance of being in the top 10. Hell, top 5. But day 1 absolutely murdered me. I went back to day 1 and I watched stages and I compared them to Jacob. And I compared him to, because he was one of the top guys for sure at the match. I compared a lot of my stages to his runs, and I was right there, but he murdered me on the mistakes. I made every mistake. He smoked me. I mean, just crushed me. And it was because I was shooting scared. I was shooting, trying not to miss. If I missed, I had a makeup shot. Instead of doing it right the first time and taking whatever time it might have taken, I wasn't giving myself that time. I was so impatient, and the impatience was creating mistakes. And I got locked into that, and I went into area 5. I didn't have a great practice, and I got locked in, and it did exactly the same thing all over again. I was making up shots. So to circle back to day 2, I go to the very first stage that I have an opportunity where I get to do what I do. I get to run around and shoot and be aggressive. And all I thought about the entire time before I got on this stage is, I am going to outrun Jacob. I'm going to outrun Jacob. I am going to outrun Jacob. But, and this is important, and this is very important, not one time did I think about Jacob's score or Jacob's time. You know why? Because I didn't look. I just know how he shoots. So I knew anything that was in front of him, he was going to move and shoot on. So immediately I said, all right, this is my stage plan. I am going into every single position, shooting on the move. There was a couple of there was a double stack of targets with 4 targets. There was an open on the bottom left, a half target with like a no shoot, a half target with, I would call it a headshot. I don't think there was enough to shoot the body, so I shot the head, and then there was a no shoot with a headshot. So I mean, again, with another, like the bottom part of the A was not worth shooting at. So I just took headshot on the far right, and then everything else was, on the move bodies. So I shoot all of it on the move. The only target I paused for was the last one, only because it was a pretty big transition. And I really was starting to get to the point where if I go any faster than this, I'm going to shoot a bad hit. So I focused on what I was supposed to focus on. How about that? Alphas, eyes, vision, finish the shot, exit on second shot, all the things that I teach. I just absolutely did that there. So I come running into the first position, and I got dot focused on one shot. One shot. So I come in, I shoot the first 2. It's great. I shoot at a hard cover, and I'm like, that one didn't feel good. And I go, oh shit, I'm starting to chase the dot again. I stared at the target, made the shot up, shoot the next position, shoot the next target, exit on the last one, and I'm out the door. I reloaded in the wrong spot. But I was like, just focus, run hard, keep running, turn, look at the gun, finish the reload, run to the next position. And I never stopped. The only time I stopped was when I hit that left corner, because I had to. I mean, I shot the both ports coming in and out of those positions. I shot everything on the move coming in and out. backing up on things that I probably would have never done before because I'm not as comfortable backing up as I used to be or should be because I've spent a lot of time working on accuracy, working on entries, working on the things that our nationals would kill me with. So I get into the left position, shoot steel paper, and then I just run the 100-mile run coming into the last spot. And I just shot. All I did was look at the target, 2 alphas, look at the steel, look at the steel, look at the steel, look at the steel. I think I had 1 makeup shot on steel, but only because I had doubled the lower popper when it was supposed. I just didn't bring the gun up higher, but everything was fine. Finished the last piece of paper. I ended up winning that stage by 1.5 to 2 seconds on average compared to everybody else, all top shooters. So I was like, all right, let's go. Like, you just figured out what the hell you were doing wrong yesterday. It's time to hammer the gas pedal and get ready for Area 6. And Area 6 was kind of way in my back of my mind. I just knew that I wasn't going to shoot with any more fear because, well, one, I didn't have anything to lose, but I didn't shoot like that. I didn't shoot like, oh man, well, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to go out there and shoot as fast. That's not how I shot. I shot as if I was winning the match or I was going to win the match, right? I didn't shoot any differently. I just focused on the things I needed to focus on as if I would shoot the match straight up. Like, I didn't care about trying to beat Jacob, or I didn't even care about stage wins. I just knew I wasn't going to lay down and not put the effort in that I haven't for months, including Carry Optics Nationals. So then I go into the next stage. It's the drop turn stage. I think it's stage 7. And I shoot that stage pretty well. Grip wasn't there. My grip wasn't great at this match, no matter what. Whatever it was, I wasn't quite locked in where I wanted to be. I didn't have a great practice going into that match, so that didn't help, at all. That did not help at all. Confidence was a little beaten up from the day before. So I was able to go through the entire stage, shoot at everything. I had 60 points on the stage, which is my goal. That was my actual goal. I didn't care if I won the stage. I didn't care if I had 80 points. I just wanted to shoot 60 points to guarantee that I was, top 5 on that stage. I think I ended up 3rd on that stage overall. So then I go to stage 1, and it was another stage where it was, let's go get it. It reminded me a lot of stage 6. They were completely different, but it reminded me a lot of stage 6. Like, okay, if I attack this, I'm going to win the stage, or I'm going to be right there in the hunt. So the goal wasn't to beat Jacob. It was just to keep up. Like, I needed to understand, I needed to prove to myself that I could keep up with him. Because I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but he's basically been kicking everybody's ass. So, and I don't like that. It's not a lot of fun. He's not an easy guy to dislike either. He's such a great dude. Like, it's like, God, man, like, why do I like you? I'm not supposed to like you. So I go into stage 1 and I'm like, let's go. Like, keep it up. Don't back down. Don't back off of this stage. Let's rip. And I go into that stage and I absolutely crush that stage. And I win the stage. Now, the crazy thing is that guy Jacob is pretty good. So I don't beat him by much. But all I cared about was just being close, right? I didn't care if I actually beat him. I just wanted a chance to keep myself in the game, right? That's one of the things I talk to you guys about constantly is if you don't give yourself a chance, you're not winning. It doesn't matter what you do. If you don't give yourself a chance, you're definitely 100% not winning, period. You gotta win. You gotta give yourself a chance in the time, or it doesn't matter how well you shoot. If I shoot 27 alphas in a Charlie and I do it in 20 seconds and he does it in 15, he wins, right? He's going to win if he shoots 4 or 5 Charlies. I'll give you an example when we get into the Area 6 talk. So I win that stage. And then I go into my last stage. We go into one more stage. I had one more stage for the day. And it was similar to stage 1 and stage 6. It was a burner. You had to run, a lot of effort. There was a lot of things that you had to do there. I did not execute that stage as well as I would have liked. I had some issues with the ports. I got into the front. I felt good where, on the position entering. I had a couple makeup shots coming into the left-hand side. There was kind of a little burner area. So it was easy to throw some mics there. So I really was locked into don't throw a mic there. And I felt a bad shot. So I took another. So that kind of screwed up my timing a little bit. I come in to the second position, which was the front port. And I decided to shoot this a little bit different than them. Shot the front port. The issue I had with the front port is I got hung up in it which was kind of weird because I shot the front port or front position, and they had these weird, I shouldn't say weird, they had these hard leans on the stage that you had to like lean way right to shoot it. I mean, it was very bladed. Like the target was straight at you, but man, your gun barely fit in the port. It was really a tough position. So I ended up shooting an Alpha Delta there, but I had already I was starting to leave on the Delta. So I took the hit and left. And then I shot the rest of the stage coming around. I felt good. The stage was okay, but I had a bunch of makeup. I don't want to say a bunch, but I had 2 or 3 makeup shots on steel. I shot the same steel twice, right? Like pop, 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 pop. Oh, dang it. And I just wasn't bringing the gun up high enough. It was a super low port for as tall as I am. It sucked. And then they had another bladed target like way to the right. So it was a really, really tough position to shoot. It's definitely not my forte is not getting down low. If I have a low port, I just manage it, right? Get in and out of it as fast as I can, but it's not something where I'm like, yep, that's a stage win. That's not my thing. So, finished that stage. I felt pretty good about it. I can't remember where I placed. I think I was top 5 or something like that, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. I needed that stage win to be happy, I guess. I honestly though, I was pretty happy with Area 5 for a couple of reasons. And I know this is kind of weird to hear out loud, but I'm really glad that I got my ass kicked at that match. It really woke me up to understand that I needed to stop shooting like a bitch. I'm just going to say it just like that. I was shooting scared of my own shadow, but it wasn't a conscious thing. It wasn't something where I was like, oh man, don't mess up. Because I don't think like that. That's just not even how I think. So the fact that I knew that the fact that I went into day 2 and competed with him and actually took some stages from him, I was like, all right, like you have not been trying or putting your maximum effort in against that guy at all. Right. And Jacob wasn't the only person that beat me at that match. So, but he's my barometer at this point. He's my metric. He's the guy that I watch him shoot a lot. I've seen his growth as a shooter. Still don't understand why that guy doesn't get as much credit as he does. Maybe he does. And they don't talk about him as much, but, the big thing about that was I needed that, right? At that moment, I needed that ass whooping. And I helped. I definitely helped him. He didn't just do it on his own. I shot so bad that, I basically gave it to everybody at that match at that point. But the fact that I was able to fight my way back to 9th overall in that match in limited optics was a giant thing for me. Talk about confidence, like understanding that your effort, out of all the things in shooting, the effort, if it's there, it'll pay off. It does pay dividends, right? Whether you think it does or not, the effort really does change the way it changes the dynamic. It gives you an opportunity to win. Even if you don't win, at least it gives yourself a chance. You might fail. You might make mistakes. You might not win. But hell, you don't even have a chance to win if you don't put maximum effort forth. And I think the biggest thing about day 2 compared to day 1 at Area 5 was when I went fast, I never let the shooting go fast. The shooting was the slowest thing I did. Even though I shot fast, don't get me wrong. Like once you get to a certain level, you have to shoot fast. But I never, ever shot faster than I could see. It's pretty crazy to feel that and understand that where you're at, like where I'm at, like to see that and kind of step back and go, whoa, everything was so slow except for the running. Like I'm like, running from position to position. But it's pretty wild to go, oh, you don't shoot faster than your gun tells you to. And when you control that, it's just, it's like a Zen feeling. honestly, it's been a great ride lately. It's really been a great ride. Even at Area 5 when things weren't going well, and then day 2 comes, I was like, man, I love this shit. Like, I really suck. But man, this is great. You know, when you really put it all together, it's like, man, okay, this is what keeps bringing me back, you know, every time. So so Area 5's done. I'm getting ready to leave and go to Area 6. So I just want to bring this up one more time. The most important thing that you can have in your life is a support system. And they don't always come from the people you think they're going to come from. I have 2 of the greatest friends that I could ever ask for in my life that I've met in this sport. I have a lot of great friends in this sport, but 2 of the greatest friends that I have that honestly, we don't really talk about shooting when we're together, which is wild because that's how we know each other. That's what we do together. But that really made a difference. So to sit down with 2 of your friends or with your friends and just no judgment, you know, they didn't judge me. They didn't go, man, you suck. They didn't go, oh man, come on, bro, you got this. Because they know me, that doesn't work. I don't need a pep talk. It was really good to just kind of when I talked or when they talked about their match or whatever it is, we just kind of listened to each other. And it was like, you know, kind of a sounding board, like, hey man, yeah, you know, this is what it is, or that's what it is. Or, you know, and they would ask me a question like, what do you think it is? And I'm like, dude, I'm almost certain I'm sight focused. Like I'm looking at the damn sight. And, you know, if I didn't have that, somebody ask me or to say that out loud, I might not have ever thought of that. I might, cause it hasn't happened before. At least it's not happened enough that I caught it. Right. I don't ever want to say never because I'm sure when I first started, it probably was a thing. But it was one of those things where it was like, if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I would have been at that match. Hell, I don't know where I would have been after the match because I never really got it out. I never really discussed it. I never would have sat down and it would have been one of those things where maybe I wanted to forget the match. And that's probably not the best answer is, you know, for me, I have always learned the most from my mistakes. Analyzing my matches, my footage, all those things. You know, I share all of it with you guys, but I use it for myself. I just remember what it was like to not have anybody share their videos of the top shooters, and you didn't really learn as much. So that's why I share my stuff, because I remember what it was like to go, how does that guy doing that? Well, I show you. So it's one of those things where, you know, just remember who's around you. If you have people that are around you that don't support you, that don't back you up, that only are around when you do well, get rid of those people, right? I mean, just get rid of them. They're not worth having around. Life is too short, and this sport, you don't have a lot of time in this sport to be great, right? You don't have a lot of time to be great in this sport. I don't know how long I have. I'm 45 years old, and I don't know how long I have, but I do know that no matter how old I get, I have lifetime friends from this sport. And it's pretty amazing to have those friends. I mean, I remember I have a buddy here in Florida that I shoot with almost every week now. And he messaged me the next day after I shot. And he was like, bro, great freaking job. I almost texted you last night to see how things were going. And then I looked at the results and I was like, I'm going to give Tom a day. But the fact that my buddy Greg was watching my scores, it means a lot. You know, you don't always have that, right? I mean, everybody has their own life. That dude's a fireman, works a lot, you know, has crazy hours, you know. So it's like, it means a lot when your friends actually give a shit. And remember those people, because they're not easy to find and they're not always there, right? So it's pretty cool to have them. So I cherish my friends a lot. I really do. So, okay, enough of the sappy shit. I didn't want to forget that because it means a lot to me. And I think a lot of you guys, or a lot of us in general, take that for granted. We take our friends for granted because they're there, right? So it's a cool thing to have. But okay, next thing. So let's go into kind of about how Area 6 went. So I go to Area 6, or I'm getting ready for Area 6. Let's go into that. I want to forget that part first. I go in and I'm kind of prepping for Area 6, and I have one practice before Area 6. I was supposed to have two, but it ends up freaking pouring and I couldn't get a second practice in. So all I did for my practice for Area 6 was focus on 10-yard targets. I didn't focus on long distance anything. I didn't care. I had already shot a lot of long distance in the last, 2 months, whatever it is, since Nationals. I'd focused solely on long distance shooting. I didn't even think about short stuff, close stuff, movement, backing up. I didn't shoot anything on the move at all for those 2 matches, for those 2 days of prep, or those 2 months of prep before Nationals, because we don't move and shoot at Nationals for some reason. And I just kind of knew not to prepare for that. So I go in and I focus on nothing but 10 yards. So let's talk a little bit about why I made that decision, even though I know Area 6 was going to be at Belton and they have long distance shooting there normally. Well, the main reason why I didn't was because I needed to get my confidence back. I needed to get my groove going, because right after Area 6, after Area 5, even though the day 2 went way better, I was really shooting out of my comfort zone, right? I knew I wasn't shooting, backing up on things isn't my thing, right? That's somebody else's thing. That's something that I needed to become more confident in and practice more. And what I mean by backing up is, getting alphas, not just backing up, but getting alphas, shooting no shoots on the move, backing up, shooting no shoots on the going forward. The things that, where you're going to make a mistake, but what separates us all are taking those targets on the move. Somebody who's going to stop and shoot versus somebody who's going to move and shoot is going to probably whip your butt, because that person is willing to take the risk. And the funny part is the more I do it and the more I have, most people know me as a guy who moves a lot and shoots a lot. It's not really a risk at some point, right? If you you do your job, it's not a risk. It's only a risk if you've never done it, right? And you're like, well, I'm going to guess and try this. But if you do it all the time, like I do or did, it doesn't become an issue. So then I go in and I'm practicing backing out on targets. I'm practicing moving and shooting. But the biggest breakthrough out of all of it, I shot as many Charlies as necessary. I didn't care about my hits. I just shot. If I felt like it was a Charlie, I left it. If it felt like a Delta, I left it. If it was a Mike, I didn't leave that. I just shot at it again. If it felt like a Mike, if it felt like a Delta, I shot at it too. I shouldn't say that. Anything outside of that Charlie zone, I took a shot at it, an extra shot. But it was one of the greatest practices I'd ever had at the moment. It was not a great practice. I didn't feel like going in Area 6. I didn't have a lot of confidence. I didn't feel great. It was only one practice. I was trying to get that second practice in, which is what I really needed. Because the first practice, I had a lot of failures, a lot of penalties. I shouldn't say penalties, but I had a lot of Charlies, like a lot more Charlies than I was used to at the time. So I go in and I'm start working on this stuff during that practice, and I'm just like, I don't care. Like my mindset going into Area 6, and I told a couple of my friends this at the match, was I am willing to shoot 80 mics at this match. I'm literally going to shoot. If I shoot 80 mics, I don't give a shit. I'm not letting Jacob outrun me. I am going to at least give myself a chance. And I went into that match and I shot one single shooting penalty. I had one single shooting penalty at that match. I don't know what happened, but something clicked at that match. Something clicked at that match. And I'll explain why I know it clicked. And I do it now so I don't forget. I went to the local match today. I went to a local match the weekend after Area 6 and shot exactly the same way I shot Area 6. Everything on the move. I did a stage plan today that was probably stupid. I ran past some stuff, got into a position, shot a no-shoot on the entry, and then backed out on a paper steel no-shoot just so I could practice it. I backed out on 3 steel on the draw today, 3 mini poppers at 12, 13 yards, whatever it was, all 3 of them on the move backing up. Like things that I was like, maybe I wouldn't have done that at Nationals, but Jacob would have. My competition would have, right? Brantley Merriam, dude, that guy shoots at everything on the move. I wonder why he's top 5 all the time. Because he shoots aggressively like I used to shoot. So going away from that match from Area 6 and only having one shooting penalty, I had 3 penalties, by the way. I don't know where to put my feet anymore, I guess, since I started shooting since Area 6. But I go into I leave that match, and I just remember shooting a couple of those stages and afterwards going, holy shit, I was really locked in there. Like, I wasn't afraid at all. Like, I had zero fear. Like, I didn't give a shit. Like, I shot a couple of Charlies and didn't care. Like, I don't know, man, that mental block that I had put in there somewhere that I didn't even know I had was gone. Gone. And I just shot that whole match with a smile on my face, just laughing and joking and just like, let's go, let's burn it down. Like, I was jacked up to shoot and move. So I had some early success with that mindset in that match. I ended up beating Jacob on 2 stages that day, I think. And then the stages I lost, other than my first stage, that was one of those penalties that I had. That's actually where I shot my shooting penalty, was stage 7. And I had another penalty that, I got. And I go into that stage. So I start the match off down immediately. And I'm like, this is awesome. And Jacob just happened to shoot, as he has been very much so recently, one of the best matches he's shot in a long time. And like I said, he's been crushing it quite a bit. So I go to the next stage and I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm ripping this one. And I think I take second on that stage, and I think I lost a single point to him, 1 or 2 points. It was very, very close. But I didn't even feel fast. I felt really slow, like extremely slow. But I didn't have any makeup shots. So I was like, oh, well, that helped. Like, that was great. Okay, cool. I go to the next stage, and I think I lose by 2 points, a point. I mean, I was right there. So, and I don't watch the scores, but one of the guys we were shooting with, he's like, man, that was good. You were right there. I was like, oh, okay. Like, did I beat him? And he goes, nah, man, but you're like literally a point. I'm like, okay, I'll take a point loss all day long for that. That's awesome. I'm right there. Next stage I go in, I smoke it. And I think I gained 10 points back I think I was down 25 points. Hell, it might've been more than that, but I was down quite a bit from the penalties that I got from the first stage. Then I go to the next stage. It is 12-point stage, and I shoot that one really well. And I think I either took first or second on that stage, whatever it was at the time. But again, if I did lose, it was only a point. So I was right there. I'm like, all right, good. Next stage after that, I think I ended up, I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was right there in the mix every single time. That was our last stage of the day. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'm right there. Like, I'm proving to myself that I can hang with the best shooter right now in our sport, in my opinion. So I go into the next day. I didn't change anything. I just go into the next day, and I just didn't have the alphas. I wasn't as calm shooting. I was fast. I had somewhat good time, but I had a few extra makeup shots in there because I wasn't calm. My vision really wasn't locked in. I was kind of jacked up in the wrong way, right? I didn't kind of come up and calm. I did my job, but I shot too many Charlies. I think I shot 5 Charlies, and I think you could only have shot 3 Charlies on that stage. I didn't shoot enough. So I go into the next stage, stage 2. I think we're going to skip that stage. I walk out of that stage, and there was some shit that happened there that affected my match that I don't agree with. I was threatened with a DQ because I wasn't happy about how that situation was handled. So then I go into stage 3, and I'm like, let's go. Let's go get it. And luckily, Jacob had a penalty on that stage. So unfortunately, my brain wasn't quite where it needed to be to take that stage win and to really get the points back I needed. So, I mean, that was my opportunity to really make a big comeback there. And unfortunately, I mentally wasn't 100% there. It was kind of hard to be there, obviously, after the last stage, but I locked it in, was able to hold it together. I think I ended up 3rd on that stage. I go into 4th stage, shoot that one pretty well. 5th stage, that was my jam. Like, that's what proved to me that I had been shooting really, really like a bitch. Like I had not been shooting aggressive, not myself at all. So I shoot that stage. I had the same stage plan as Jacob. And it's kind of funny because that stage, I shot it exactly like him. We were neck and neck. I watched his stage and I kind of, put them together and saw it. We're neck and neck until we get to the front center. And I'm almost beating him on that stage at that point. I had one makeup shot, but it was a big one. Like I shot the right, there was a target far to the right, shot that target, and then I came back and had to shoot a target in the middle. And man, he just crushed me after that. It was only 4 shots after that, but he was halfway up range by the time I made that makeup shot because I had to stand and stop and shoot it. So, he crushed me on that stage in time. Luckily, he shot a mic again. And this is why one of the stages I wanted to get to and talk about. He beat me on the stage with a mic because he was 2 to 3 seconds faster. I can't remember. That's how important it is to understand that time matters. It's not more important than your hits. That's not what I'm saying. Because a lot of guys, for whatever reason in this sport, if you say time matters, they go, cool, I'm going to shoot shitty hits. Or if you go, accuracy matters, they go, cool, I'm going to slow down. That's not why your hits are good or bad. It's because you're not doing your job. So as I sit down and I kind of analyze that video, I'm like, wow, that's like that one bullet was just kind of everything wrapped up in a package with a little bow on it to go, see? That's how you keep getting your butt kicked. Is that what would the one single bullet I needed a makeup shot on, how much extra time would it have taken me to make sure I did it right the first time? Probably not that much. Right? Now, it's easy to say that. It's super easy to say that now afterwards, but it's something that I had to think about. It's something that I had to work on. I've had to work on it. It's always a work in progress. So finish that stage and I go to the very last stage, which is stage 6. I absolutely hated this stage when I walked it. Hated it. I never got comfortable with this stage. I absolutely hated that stage when I walked it. Not shooting it, but when I walked it. There was something about that stage that no matter how many times I walked it, I just couldn't get comfortable with that stage. Like it just made me... There was only one way to shoot it, but there was multiple ways to shoot the targets. If that makes sense. You're shooting it. It's an L shape. There's no way to go around things. You're staying in bounds and shooting things. It's just, do you shoot a target on the move coming up, which was close to a 180? Do you stop and shoot? Do you back out at somewhere else? Like all these different opportunities to just kind of take targets in different locations. So I come up to the stage and don't ask me why. I'm pretty sure it was Casey, which, Casey's, it's not fair because Casey's like 6'10". He's a big giant guy. So I'm like, well, that's not fair. You can shoot that thing any way you want it, right? Like you can really see it. So it was Ben. There's a gentleman on our squad named Ben that I was talking to him about it. And he was like, man, I was like, man, I like this, but I hate this at the same time. Like I want to shoot this on the move, but it makes me, the DQ is very, very close. It was easy target to DQ on. But the other one was like, I just hated the way it made me kind of stop and then start again. And we were going uphill in kind of a sand trap. It was rocks and sand, but it was very mushy in that spot. So he was like, man, and I watched him kind of run a position. And I was like, well, I saw that earlier during the breakdown, earlier in the weekend, but I hated it. But I went back to that stage plan and I was like, you know what, man, that feels pretty good. Like, it actually feels pretty good. I think I'm going to do that stage plan now that I've done it again and I've kind of felt a couple different ways. I like that. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to end up doing that stage plan. So I ended up running this stage and it had, weekend on it, which big kudos to Area 6. The proper way, in my opinion, to do strong hand and weak hand is not Virginia count. Just, don't try to screw people up. Give them an opportunity to do makeup shots. In my opinion, that's the way to do weak hand, strong hand. they had 2 stages at Area 6 that were strong hand, weak hand, and they were the last 3 shots or last 6 shots of the stage. Strong hand on one, and then this one happened to be weak hand. So last 3 shots, weak hand. And there was really, I mean, you were going to be shooting at 2 pieces of paper or 1 piece of paper and 2 steel. That there was no other place nothing else to shoot there. So you were definitely do that. So we go into that stage, and I run that stage and I shoot, and all I did on that stage was just focus on sights and trigger. I didn't care about my speed. I already knew I was fast, and I backed out on everything and moved on everything I possibly could. I come to the left-handed shooting, and I just kind of told myself during the shooting, like, listen, trigger prep, right? Like, speed didn't matter at that moment. It was just prep. And I knew the key to that stage, not the win, not the win, but just to shoot that stage well, was no makeup shots on the weekend. Like, make sure you're really locked in with what you're supposed to. Whatever time it took is whatever time it took. I ended up shooting that stage with only 1 makeup shot on the steel. I just prepped a little bit early. On the prep out on the first steel, I just prepped early, and then I shot, bang, bang. I won that stage by almost 2 seconds and was able to take second because of that stage win. I didn't even like that stage. I hated that stage until I shot it, until I walked it that day. So again, it's one of those things where just because you might not like something, it might not actually be a problem. It's just you kind of talk yourself into disliking some of this stuff sometimes. I couldn't get a good feel for that stage. And then I ended up walking it feeling great. And I ended up winning the stage and took second overall in limited optics because of that stage. It's kind of weird when you go back and like, I kind of just talk about it out loud. I really haven't talked about it. It's just like having those moments of, I don't know, zen, not feeling anything, not doing anything, just shooting, not thinking about, like, before I got up to the stage, all I thought about was just hammering alphas, get in and out of those positions, attack. And so getting into that stage and doing my job like I'm supposed to, and then getting up to that weekend. And I remember telling myself when I switched hands, all I told myself was just prep. And it just did it, right? Because I mean, that was my focus, was on my grip. Like, how was the gun going off? And I won the stage, which again got me second place, which was pretty amazing considering that I got my ass whooped the weekend before at Area 5. So, I mean, the main thing of everything is I just learned to shoot with zero fear. All right. So let's finish this thing off with why and how do I know that I made a change? How do I know I made that change from Area 5 to Area 6, and how do I know I locked it in? So I've been thinking about this a lot. And the only way I absolutely know that I locked those things in is the way I shot today. I went to a local match, and they had a lot of really good stages. They don't always have hard stages. They don't always have stages that I would consider national level like I would hope. But this match had a ton of very, very, very good stages. Like, this was one of the best matches that they've put on locally since they took it over. So I was really happy to come to that match. I mean, honestly, I like going to the match regardless because I get to hang out with my friends and I get to shoot. I really like shooting locals because they're practice to me. I use them a lot for my mental game. And it pays very, very big dividends to me. It really does help me a lot. So I go into this match, and my goal was to move on anything and everything I could because I knew I was going to need to keep that process going. And I wanted to make sure that Area 6 wasn't a fluke. That was big to me. I really wanted to make sure that I was keeping the right mindset and attacking the stage. So I go into this match, and it started on the first stage. Like, I ended up backing out on 3 pieces of paper or 3 pieces of steel, mini poppers at 10, 15 yards, 12 yards, whatever the hell it was. I don't know. I didn't even walk it off. backing up, and then I back up into a tuxedo, smoke that, go to the corner, shoot, run to the right, shoot, come into the corner, come into the center, do whatever I needed to do, and then shoot 3 pieces of steel on the move. I think I ended up with 1 makeup shot on that stage, on that steel. And as soon as I missed, I was like, wait, okay, go. And I just kind of reset. Normally I would just send rounds. So that's been something that I'm like, look, the time, it's not worth what I've been doing. The sending rounds isn't working. So now I'm just, if I miss, I lock right back into the vision. It's weird. I don't want to say it's weird, but it's, you know, my brain is shifted. Like I'm really locked into shooting. Like when I'm doing something and it doesn't go right, I go to the answer instead of, we'll just keep doing what I just go, wait, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not looking at the target. You're not prepping the gun. You're not squeezing the trigger right. You're not, you're not gripping the gun. So it's, all these things kind of start to happen as you progress and you start to pay attention to what is really going on. So this match, I ended up shooting 19 Charlies. I don't know. Let me see what I had here. I got my phone here, so let me see what I had. I ended up with 128 alphas, 19 Charlies, 1 mic, and no shoot. So, and I shot it in 97 seconds. The closest guy to me in time. Sorry, let's go to combined here. Yeah, the closest guy to me, I think, was 5, 97, 98, 99, 100. So 3 or 4 seconds behind me, 4 seconds on a 6-stage match. So one of the things about that is, one, I kept the pace. That was important to me. That was very important to me. Now, again, how much time can you gain in 6 seconds or in 6 stages? Not very much. You're only going to gain a little bit here and there. But one of the big things about that match to me was I kept my accuracy and I attacked the stages and I allowed the shooting to be controlled. I never got out of control. And that's not always been the case. So that was one of the reasons why I was so focused on alphas for so long and why I constantly was cleaning things up and making up shots, because I never really felt like I could go as fast as I wanted to and still be in control. But now I understand the shooting part more. I understand the control part more, and that my dot controls my speed. And it's changed everything I do now. I mean, it's changed my coaching. It's changed everything, right? And then you add in the vision aspect of what I've been pushing for my vision, and it's like, oh man, everything's starting to tie together, right? It's all starting to come together again. And then I go in at this match and I shoot 1 bullet. God, it's so frustrating. 1 bullet. I come through this stage and I just blended this stage together. I mean, my main focus was just kind of blending this stage. It was not an easy thing to do. There was a lot of like big open gaps between things. So I blended these positions together, come around the corner, come flying in. I come into a nice, beautiful open target. I take my time, but obviously fast, rip 2, shoot a far target. I'm nice and calm. I go to a no shoot that's probably 15, 18 yards, something like that. I don't know. It wasn't close. And I shoot a dead center alpha, and then I let my gun go. I felt it in the middle of the stage, and I go, shit. Yep. But I was already leaving. So I don't know whether, and I keep trying to go back in my mind. For some reason, I think I just kind of was like pull trigger, leave, but didn't focus on the fundamentals of the grip. I mean, I plugged this dude dead center in the forehead. Like, I mean, I definitely an alpha, but in the no shoot. So I shoot a mic no shoot there and leave. Now, the crazy part is I remember shooting that no shoot and going to the last 3 targets, which one of them had a no shoot on it. I mean, identical to the other one. And I go shoot alphas, right? Like and I'm like, just shoot alphas. Don't, that's over. Like it's gone. Don't worry about it. Forget it. Shoot alphas. So as I go through that process, it's kind of crazy because you wouldn't think you're supposed to think any of this stuff. But it's practice, right? Like I'm locked into things that I'm working on. So where was I at mentally in the middle of that stage? Well, I'm mentally thinking about shooting alphas, right? Like sights and trigger, sights and trigger, sights and trigger. it's one of those things where when I made that mistake, I felt it. Right now, if I wasn't focused and I wasn't practicing, how do I fix that? How do you fix it? Right? That's a big thing to me, is how would I have fixed that problem if I don't think, if I'm not thinking about what I'm doing? I know exactly what it feels like now when my grip isn't right, but that's come from me feeling those moments where I didn't hold the gun correctly. If that was an open target, I would have had an alpha. But because it's not an open target, I learned from it, right? That's the problem, is I probably wouldn't have felt that. Well, I would have, because I focus on that stuff. But most people would have said, cool, I just got 2 alphas. But yeah, you shot one 6 inches lower than where you were aiming. What happened? And that's where the no-shoot, like those failures like that are where it really changed my shooting. Like, I look at that failure as a positive thing. Oh, trust me, I wasn't like, yeah, awesome, I got a no-shoot. I was mad. But I was also very happy that I felt that and learned from that moment. Like, I will never forget that feeling again. I just need to make sure it doesn't happen until after the bullet's gone. I did it before the bullet left, and that was where I made the mistake. It was a timing thing, right? It was my timing. It wasn't my accuracy grip. It was because I let the gun go too early. I didn't pull the trigger and then move. And that was where I made a mistake. So it's, you learn from it. But the biggest thing is leaving that match, keeping the time I kept, and then still shooting the alphas. That was the difference. That was the biggest difference for me, is to go out, to get away from the big area match and go see how it actually, like, does it hold up? Can I stay at that pace? Is it really locked in, or is it just, man, I just had a great 2 days, or I had a great day? That was big, man. It's been big. All right. If you guys have any questions, hit me up in those comments, and I'll see you on the range.